Have you ever wondered what it actually takes to become a front-end developer? I mean, not just the theory, but the real, hands-on projects that build job-ready skills. Well, this is for you. We're about to map out one developer's entire 11-project journey, starting from the very first line of code all the way to a seriously complex application. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the starting line, the initial plan. Then we'll dive into mastering the core fundamentals. After that, we'll see the leap to connecting with live data. Then comes the big one, leveling up with the React framework. And finally, we'll pull it all together and look at the key lessons from this whole journey. You know, every big journey needs a map. You wouldn't just start driving across the country without a GPS, right? Well, for a developer, that map is a clear plan of what to build and what to learn. And lucky for us, we've got the exact roadmap that was followed for this journey, step by step. And here it is, the whole shebang. This is our guide for the entire explainer. It lays out all 11 projects, from a super simple portfolio site to a pretty advanced admin dashboard. Now, what's really cool here is how you can see the progression. Just look at the tech stack column. It starts with just HTML and CSS, then boom, JavaScript gets added, and finally we get to the React framework. It's a really logical climb from beginner to advanced. So where does a journey like this even begin? It starts with the absolute essentials. The first batch of projects is all about building a rock-solid foundation in HTML, CSS, and what we call vanilla JavaScript. And that just means plain old JavaScript, without any extra frameworks or libraries. This is where you really learn the rules of the web. Okay, so the first real test of logic comes from building interactive apps. Things like a calculator, a to-do list, or a quiz app. They might seem simple, but they are absolutely crucial. This is where you learn how to use JavaScript to manipulate the DOM, which is basically the live blueprint of your web page. It's how you make things happen on the screen when a user clicks a button. And you can see the specific skills piling up here. With the calculator, it was about adding keyboard support and a theme switcher. The to-do list, that introduced a super important concept, using local storage to save data right in the browser, so your list doesn't just vanish. And the quiz app was a deep dive into handling data with arrays, shuffling questions, keeping score, the works. So once the basic logic is down, the focus shifts. It moves to the user experience, or UX. This is all about building things that don't just work, but actually feel good to use. And projects like landing pages or quote generators are perfect for this, because they let you focus on animations, layout, and just getting that professional polish. Let's get specific. For one landing page, a powerful animation library called GSApp was brought in to create those buttery smooth motions you see on pro websites. But then, for the quote generator, the challenge was totally different. Create a really complex animated background with no libraries at all, just pure CSS. And through it all, both projects had a huge emphasis on responsive design, making sure they looked awesome on any screen. Okay, this next step, it is a massive turning point for any developer. This is where your apps stop being these little self-contained islands and actually learn to talk to the rest of the internet. We are talking about APIs, and trust me, they make your projects 1,000 times more powerful and interesting. So what the heck is an API anyway? Well, the best way to think about it is like a waiter in a restaurant. Your app is the customer, and it makes a request for some specific data. I'll have the weather for London. The API is the waiter who takes your order, goes to the server, the kitchen, and brings back exactly what you asked for. It's the messenger. Let's make that real with the weather app project. Here's the play-by-play. Step 1, a user types in a city. Step 2, the app shoots that city name over to the Open Weather Map API. Step 3, the API sends back a nice little package of live weather data. And step 4, the app grabs that data and updates the screen. That 4-step dance is the heart of so many modern apps. But of course, it's never quite that simple, is it? This project was a real trial by fire. You have to handle all the messy stuff, like what happens when someone types in a city that doesn't exist, or how do you deal with waiting for the API to respond? And the classic developer headache, fixing bugs that only pop up after you put the app online. Honestly, getting through these problems is where the real learning kicks in. We've built a solid foundation, we've connected to the web, and now it's time to level up in a big way. This is where we bring in React. It's a JavaScript library that totally changes how you build apps. It lets you create way more complex, scalable, and professional projects. It's also one of the most in-demand skills out there today. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. This quote comes from the final report on the most advanced project in this journey, the admin dashboard. It says it all. The key phrases here are component reuse and state management. With React, you build apps kind of like you're playing with Legos. You create all these little reusable pieces or components, and then you snap them together to build something huge. State management is just a fancy way of saying each of those Lego bricks can remember its own stuff. So what's the big difference, really? Well, with vanilla JavaScript, you have to tell the browser every single little thing to do. Change this text. Now hide this button. Now show this image. It's very manual. But with React, you just describe what the page should look like based on its current data, its state. And React handles all the nitty-gritty of updating the screen efficiently. It's a total game changer for building complex stuff. And you can see how the learning ramped up day by day within React itself. It started on day one with just a simple counter app to understand the most basic tool, the useState hook. Think of it as giving a component a piece of memory. Then, a student marks manager to practice handling a whole list of data. By day 4, the movie search app was combining React with an API call. And finally, the admin dashboard brought everything together. Looking at what these final projects could do, you can really see the leap in capability. The movie search app was a real-world example of fetching and displaying data from the web. The Foodland page was all about professional organization, how to structure your project so it doesn't become a mess. And that admin dashboard, wow, it had sophisticated features you'd find in a real company's internal tool, like filtering data, sorting tables, the whole 9 yards. All right, so after all that, after 11 different projects, what's the bottom line? Let's zoom out for a second and pull together the most critical skills that were forged through this whole hands-on journey. Now, this is so important. It's not just about the code. I mean, yeah, the technical skills, like working with APIs and managing state, are vital. But look at the other stuff. Using Git for version control, actually deploying projects so they're live on the web, and maybe most importantly, banging your head against the wall to debug real frustrating problems. It's the whole package. And where did all these skills come from? They came from practice. Consistent, dedicated practice. 11 projects, not 11 tutorials watched on YouTube, 11 real applications that were built from scratch, debugged, and shipped to a live URL for anyone to see. And that's really the secret sauce, isn't it? That's the main takeaway. You can read books and watch videos all day long, but true, deep understanding, that comes from the act of building. Every bug you fix, every feature you finally get working, that solidifies the knowledge in a way theory just never can. So this journey gives us a proven blueprint, a tangible path from knowing nothing to having a portfolio packed with awesome working applications. It proves that if you have a plan and you focus on building, you can make incredible progress. The only question left is,